Anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on. Let's take a closer look at Stephen Jebediah Bannon's, takes on the matter.
Strategist who worked in the White House. He has publicly acknowledged that he advised Bolsonaro. This is Bannon back in November as he was pushing the misinformation.
Dude, they're such fucking losers, dude. Like, they're such incredible fucking losers. Like, it's mind-boggling. The loserness
surrounding this election.
Look in the streets of Brazil. Look at the great patriots in Brazil that at a lot of danger to themselves have come forward and are in the streets of Brazil. This is the people saying, no, you didn't follow the Constitution. You use these machines, you use the judiciary.
It's literally the same. They're using the same lines, dude. Bar for bar. Verbatim. One of the main aspects of why this should happen is the governor of the federal district, the state of the Brasilia, a notorious Bolsonarista, was conniving with the riots and just did some shit when Lula name dropped him on the blame list, firing his security department's leader.
To shut us down in the media, and we're not going to tolerate it. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
And we're seeing how it's playing out now. John Avalon is here to discuss. It is remarkable to see. It wasn't just Steve Bannon who's been advising him. It was also Jason Miller was part of those conversations. He had made several trips. Bolsonaro was actually...
I do not understand why motherfuckers hire Steve Bannon. Like, dude, he's not teaching you anything new, okay? He doesn't have any good ideas. He is, like, demonstrably a failure. He does not pass basic competency. Like, he's not this, like, conniving, brilliant tactician. The way that, like, media has, like, almost made him, almost presented him as, you know what I mean? He's like this shadowy figure in these, behind closed doors, like figuring out how to help people do insurrection successfully. They hire Steve so he's not the ugliest motherfucker in the room. Yeah.
Actually in Florida right now, we should note. What has stood out to you about the takeaways and the similarities between what happened then, what happened after the election, and now what we're seeing play out?
Of course, the echoes are unmistakable. I mean, you've got a...
It's not even really echoes, right? It's
I mean, look, Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat, but sometimes it rhymes. Yeah. But this is a very close rhyme because the people fanning the flames on social media here in the U.S. are some of the sort of the Trumpist wing of that crew who'd been fanning the flames around the Stop the Steal movement very explicitly, not just Steve Bannon, as you say. There has been a move to deny the legitimacy of this election.
Look up any of the old commentary I've done on Brazil, whether it be like Lula's victory or, many times ahead, many times before that. Brazil carbon copies are shit, okay? Yeah, like Bolsonaro could literally personally like something, but if he sees Trump hating on it, he will go and hate on it himself. He had no unique ideas, okay? I guess the only exception was like the one time where he was like, yeah, me and a 14-year-old who I assumed was a sex-trafficked 14-year-old had good vibes and we almost fucked when she invited me back to her house, which is true, by the way. That's a true story. He said he made a story like this up, basically, okay, and embellished the details where he said him and a 14-year-old were fucking flirting. The story isn't true, but he did tell it. Like, some aspects of the story are real, but it's weird that his embellishment of this story featured him kicking game at a 14-year-old and her being receptive to his cunning ways, I guess. He literally explained it as such, which makes it way fucking worse. Like, if you wanted to make up a story, why did you make one up where you were kicking game at a fucking 14-year-old, dude? What the fuck? Who you said you perceived to be a sex trafficking victim. And then these motherfuckers ride for him, dude.
From some of Trump's former advisors saying, do not concede. And here you have this slightly delayed reaction, but a direct attack on the Capitol by a mob. And it just, I think, speaks to the fact that democracy being under assault is not over. And some of the people using social media to encourage these sorts of mob attacks are some of the people who, from the sort of self-styled populist nationalist movement that they seek to make international.
There was a great piece republished this morning in the New York Times from months ago that just walked through the
what is this?
months and years of lies about election fraud
Yes.
that Bolsonaro made and continues to make that led to this, right? That lead to this. And the parallels are just so striking with the months
I don't know what
and
that
years
is.
of lies that
Don't send me
continue
links
on
like
now. So I
that.
think
I
the
don't know
question
if there's
beyond what we
anything
saw
weird in
happen
there or
in Brazil
not.
is those lies from those leaders continue.
That's
So
exactly.
then what?
Well, look, I think it highlights the fact.
Do you know about the raid on the vote count in 2000? Just curious. You mean the Brooks Brothers riot that actually stole an American election? Yes. I have talked about it many, many times. And the people that actually were involved in the Brooks Brothers riot, from Roger Stone all the way to like some of the legal clerks at the time, are now a part of the Supreme Court of the United States. So America has been doing that for a very long time, and they successfully did it. The person who became president, George W. Bush's brother, Jeb Bush, was the governor of Florida at the time. They literally did a riot, stopped a recount from happening, and that's it. And of course, Al Gore conceded to George W. Bush, and Bush became the president. And then did 9/11. All right, let's move on.
There is a struggle between disinformation and democracy, and that disinformation can create real-world impacts. I mean, the role of bots, for example, in Brazil, spreading disinformation, amplifying false messages, but also being done here from the United States by some of the former President Trump's closest advisors. You know, that I think just speaks to the fact that the disinformation flow around the world because of social media is international.
But do you know what this, do you remember, right? Because we lived this.
Yes.
We all lived this. And people would say, why do you guys keep covering January 6th? Why are you trying to divide the country? What are you trying to divide? It's like, no. There was an attack on democracy. This is important. This should be the lead story every single night on every news broadcast until people realize. And then you had all these voices on the conservative side.
No fucking shot. Oh, fake news is already out there. Bolsonaristas helped to arrest over 100 terrorists infiltrated. They were hired by the left to put blame on patriots, but patriots filmed everything. I love this, dude. I love this. It is exactly the fucking same. They're doing the same shit. They're saying, Antifado! Antifa! They have Antifa! I made, that's not how you say Antifa in Portuguese, I assume, right? Antifado. Infiltrado. Antifascista. That's gotta be racist. Yeah, it's like when your friend tells you to copy your homework but changes it up a little bit, but like they didn't even change it up. They just copied it, dude. They didn't even change it up a little bit. They just copied it. It's like 2 days off. That's it. Like they didn't do it on January 6th. Instead, they did it on a Sunday. That's it. It's not a Mexican accent. I'm not making I'm not trying to do a Mexican accent. I'm trying to do a Brazil.
Or lack of voices not calling this out or criticizing the news media for reporting on this. This is what happens when you allow authoritarian type behavior from leaders. This is what happens when you allow misinformation to when you give it a platform.
No, look, I think that is exactly right, because this is a real-world impact 2 years delayed in another country. And it just shows that this is not academic. Until there's accountability, until we really get better at combating disinformation in a way that's consistent with our liberal values as a democracy, not only here at home but abroad, I think these sorts of things will continue occurring. And the fact that it's some of the same players spreading the same degrees of election lies and misinformation, having this real-world effect in the Southern Hemisphere, I think should be a wake-up call to us all as Brazil today seeks to reestablish the rule of democracy.
We'll see.
Let's not think about how Bolsonaro got to this point. Let's not do that. Let's make no mention of mainstream media's hyping up of Bolsonaro, presenting him as not a fascist but actually a disruptive figure. Trumpian, but not in a bad way, but in a good way. Let's not mention America's, early on, America's interest in Brazil. Yeah, all that stuff. This just materialized. Just like here in the United States of America, you know what I mean? Just like the top of the hour ad break, it just materializes. There's no fucking, lead up to it. No, at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and it doesn't just come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? It's just it's coming. But of course, lucky for you, there are ways you can avoid it. Okay? You can avoid it by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. Okay? Or you can get gifted a sub if you're lucky. I wonder how these right-wing fascist and fascist-aligned motherfuckers who always just love Florida for some weird reason, I wonder how they get into positions of power. I wonder what networks they use to blow up their shit. Okay, BRB, thank you for the 5 get the subs. I wonder how that happens, you know? Patty Pan, thank you for the 5 get the subs as well. What the fuck, man? You want to criticize journals now for pushing dangerous narratives that could have a ripple effect worldwide because it sets an example despite being an annoying year plus long committee and judiciary process afterwards, which did not deter another country from doing the exact same thing? Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe they just looked at, I guess they probably looked at America and saw nothing really happen to the jet ski dealership owners and the HVAC owners, you know what I mean? And they were like, fuck it, YOLO, we could do it ourselves too. Trev627, thank you for the 5 gifted. Patty Pan, thank you for the 5 gifted as well. Allowing 15 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Rabneto, thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well. Bolsonaro became popular because of a strong sense of anti-PT in the country. Lula's party because of many corruption scandals. Lula is definitely not a saint, nor is he a good guy. He's just much better than Bolsonaro. No, politics is corrupt in Brazil across the board. The only difference is, and this has happened in every fucking country. This happened with CHP in Turkey. This happened in the United States of America. You look at the Democratic Party and you realize oh, that's the weaker arm of capital, whereas the stronger arm of capital is doing shit that's openly corrupt, but at least they're honest in their dishonesty. Okay? So there is a level of power that you associate with those people. And that's it. Lula's scandal or his own personal involvement in the matter in the car wash in the car wash shit was shown to be false and coordinated by a corrupt prosecutor who was a Bolsonarista himself. Pretty Princess, thank you for the 3 gifted, and Habibi, thank you for the 5 gifted. We really have a Fox News copycat that sprung out of a radio station over the last years that slobber Bolsonaro's cock daily. Yeah, I mean, there's a... You literally don't know what you're talking about. Stop acting like it. Shown to be. Pull me up on Discord. Let me educate you. Yeah. I think we're going to not do that, chatter. I'm going to be honest with you. Random chatter. We're probably not going to do that.
See what Republicans say about this. Democrats want them to weigh in and condemn what's happening in Brazil. One thing I will note also, at 3:45 today, the U.S. ambassador to Brazil is getting sworn in. So she has obviously a full plate. John Avalon, thank you for.
Like, how do you fucking look at a situation? It's literally the Hunter Biden discourse, okay? Sure. And Hunter Biden himself has traded in the Biden name, has utilized nepotism regularly, got jobs that he's not supposed to. Okay? But look at the fucking Trumps. Like, they did the exact same thing in way more meaningful ways, like Jared Kushner especially, when he was in power. You know what I mean? Hunter Biden was never in power. He just got, like, shitty fucking jobs, which is still unacceptable. Right? And an identical parallel exists in Brazil as well, where you look at, like, Lula's corruption, and at most, he turned a blind eye, okay, to misdealings from his own party. But he got fucking ass clapped for it. Meanwhile, not a single person, every single person that says Lula is a corrupt prisoner refuses to recognize that he was acquitted, okay, and refuses to fucking look at a single thing that the Bolsonaro family has done thus far, including the efforts, the many steps that they fucking took to unironically shelter their crimes, to hide their crimes. Why do you think he went to Florida? Why do you think he went to Florida? You think he went there for the KFC? Publix? No, he went there because he knew he was going to get in trouble at the moment that Lula was in power.
Laying out what's really important here, and it has global impacts, as you were saying.
Thank you, Brad. This has been top of mind for you for years. So for the last,
I am Brazilian, and you are 1,000% right. People love to say Lula is corrupt and shit, but all proves the corruption was fabricated or bad review by Moro. Yes. At most, Lula's involvement within, like, the scandals that they literally arrested him for was basically turning a blind eye to the routine corruption that was occurring in every Brazilian administration. That's it. Okay? They said he had personal involvements in the matter. It was fucking bullshit. They literally made all that shit up. And the irony, of course, is that, like, the prosecutor that did that was a Bolsonarista. And literally, Bolsonaro himself has done infinitely worse shit, like, personally, like, openly. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how this kind of propaganda is so successful, though, because people don't give a shit. They literally do not care about the follow-ups. There's no follow-up to it whatsoever. That story ended there because it fits your narrative that, like, Lula is a corrupt socialist, so you just want to fucking believe that. Bolsonaro said a 100-year silence on vaccine card in official presidential meetings, and Lula took it down. The guy flew away the country because he's going to come up with a lot of shit. Yeah, exactly.
last 2 years. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. This is what it looks like in Brasilia right now. That's where troops are lining up across from those protesters. Again, look at the pictures on your screen. The deadline to clear them now just 4 hours away after this happened yesterday. Those rioters are supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro, stormed and vandalized Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court, and presidential palace on Sunday. Security forces used tear gas to clear protesters and regain control of the buildings. Officials declaring overnight the riots are over. At least 400 people are under arrest this morning. The unrest coming a week after the inauguration of President Lula da Silva, who is vowing to punish those responsible for the attacks. Straight now to CNN's Rafael Romo tracking the developments for us this morning. Rafael, good morning to you. What is the situation in Brazil's capital this morning?
Good morning, Don. Well, it's finally under control, but it looks like a war zone. And allow me to paint the picture of what transpired in the last 24 hours. Imagine for a moment that the January 6th mob here in the United States had not only breached the Capitol, but also the White House and the Supreme Court building. That's exactly what happened in Brazil Sunday, an insurrection that ended with the arrest of at least 400 people, left the main public buildings in the country inoperable, and deepened a political crisis that has been brewing for months.
Brazil boiling over. Supporters of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro stormed key buildings in the country's capital Sunday, breaching security barriers and temporarily occupying the country's Congress, presidential palace, and Supreme Court. Masses of protesters flooded the country's seat of power, many dressed in the colors of Brazil's flag, yellow and green, fueled by anger and distrust over Bolsonaro's defeat in a runoff election last October, where he lost by less than 2 percentage points to current President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Protesters threw
Who's happen all the time in Latin America, and you barely ever see Western liberal media cover the shit, barely at all, especially not condemning it like this. I mean, also, they didn't protect Bolsonaro a second time. Let's be fucking real. If you think that America has no juice left in Brazil, you're crazy. I think their bandwidth and their interests in global politics have shifted away. Literally, it's a multiple parts equation, right? I think partially they don't consider Lula to be like as big as a threat to American hegemonic power. But even if they did, I don't think that they have the bandwidth that they once had. You know what I mean? To like genuinely defend Bolsonaro in Brazil and maintain Bolsonaro in Brazil as the person in power. You know what I mean? Yeah, Lula is a far more reliable and predictable leader too. I think so as well. The CIA had to play a role in this? No, man, this shit. No, you know what? It's on autopilot. It's like whenever you fucking see like weird right-wing guys like blow themselves up out of nowhere, and then the FBI says, "Oh, we were aware of this person." It's like that. When you have so many of these like networks set up already, okay? Sometimes those networks are going to behave in unpredictable ways, because they were set up to do the predictable thing, a right-wing insurrection, right? This is not new for Latin American countries. Okay, it's not. So they didn't have to do anything. I think this is on autopilot. If they actually had to, if they wanted to do something, they would have set up Bolsonaristas within the ranks of the federal government. They would have set up Bolsonaristas within the ranks of the federal police, which already exists. They would have beefed that up. They would have armed certain parts of the fucking. They would have armed certain parts of the Brazilian army. Like, this is not. I don't think this is a thing that happened because the CIA wanted it to happen. I think it's just like they are basically doing the predictable thing because the brain rot is like almost uncontrollable at this point. It's all WhatsApp. It's WhatsApp. Like they're going crazy over it regardless. You know what I mean? These people are fucking insane at this point, just like in America. You know what I mean? It's WhatsApp and Telegram. It's all WhatsApp. Yes. WhatsApp and Telegram is where a lot of these fucking psychos radicalize, okay? That's where a lot of these people get the fucking psychotic ideas. That's where they organize. There's really nothing you can do about it. Like, and I don't think this is, not everything is CIA brain rot is able to grow. I don't think this is the CIA. I think that it would be a cleaner operation if it was, and there would be more military involvement if it was. Now, you might speculate on whether it's not the CIA because like they don't think Lula is as big as a threat, or Lula's stability to Brazil is something that they find to be beneficial in the global global scheme. You might think that it's because they just don't have enough bandwidth, you know? They don't have enough juice anymore in Latin American countries like they once did. It could be a bunch of those things, but I don't think it is CIA involvement. I think it's just like preset. Yeah, exactly. I knew it wasn't because, look, you want to know why the American State Department wasn't involved in this? Because I know what happens when the American State Department is involved in a Latin American country's elections ahead of time. They don't come out and immediately say, we are going to we are going to abide by the results, and so should everyone else, of the election before the election is settled. This is ahead of time. Okay? You have to understand, like, some of this is organic. Some of this is free range hogging. You know what I mean? It's Haagen-Dazs, baby. But yeah, look, in the past, when the CIA did facilitate a fucking coup, right? What did they do? Like when they did one in Venezuela, okay? They did a coup d'etat. They helped the coup d'etat happen, okay? And then they turned around and immediately recognized the Chamber of Commerce, like the head of the Chamber of Commerce, as the official president. They unironically kept, until this past week, they unironically said Juan Guaido was the official head of state in Venezuela. Until this past week, when they decided that that's no longer the case. So, like, they're very open about it. Whenever they want to make... or whenever they want to facilitate regime change in a country, they openly state it. It's not like they hide it. There are certain markers that you can look at, certain tells. And they did the exact opposite. They did the exact opposite with Bolsonaro leading up to the elections and immediately after the elections as well. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that they're going to help Lula all that much. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to help Lula, but not everything is always the CIA.
Objects and scaled the roofs of buildings while clashing with police who responded with tear gas. At least one protester was seen sitting at the desk of Brazil's Congress president. CNN Brazil reports the floor of the Congress building was flooded after the sprinkler system activated when protesters attempted to set fire to the carpet. By evening, police began dispersing the rioters from buildings and arrested hundreds of people who were detained in buses before being taken to the police station.
Yeah, CIA helped car wash because they wanted our libs to win the PSDP party, but then the far right came in and swept them. Yeah, I think like their involvement happened during the car wash stuff, and then that was, far right does not need Jair Bolsonaro to spread its ideas. Former president was just the face of a movement that will continue operating in the machine of lies that almost re-elected him and then may give power to his successor in the future. It is a story as old as time itself. You have All Matter of Media, that is an arm of the Capitol, defending the interests of big business, okay? Constantly and consistently saying like that even someone who is like who was known as like a conciliatory known as like a deal maker candidate like Lula, even he was, especially with his like anti-poverty measures, seen as a threat. And once he became a threat, the media is ripping into him. And then you have a little bit of involvement, a little bit of push from our State Department to like undermine his credibility, help with this investigation. Let me up. Thank you for the 69 gifted subs, by the way. And then that it's over. Done. Nice. All right, I gotta pee.
President Lula da Silva, who was inaugurated just a week ago, described the events as barbaric and vowed to punish the people responsible.
Those people that we call fascists, we call them everything that's abominable in politics. They invaded the government headquarters and they invaded the
I'll be back
like
in a second.
vandals, destroying everything in their path.
President Lula da Silva also blamed his predecessor for the lack of security in the capital, where Bolsonaro's supporters have been camped out for over a week. Bolsonaro, who is currently in Florida, denounced what he called the depredations and invasions of public buildings in a tweet, adding that peaceful and lawful demonstrations are part of democracy. But critics say Bolsonaro may have stirred up the crowds by repeatedly saying, without evidence, that he questioned the integrity of the country's electronic voting system.
More details have emerged overnight about how violent some of the pro-Bolsonaro protesters became. Done. At least 12 journalists were attacked, robbed, or had their equipment destroyed. Now back to you.
Yeah. Are you peeing right now? I want to, but I'm